It's really easy, but complex because it is straight out mechanical. And so you actually, there is nothing you're going to type on the computer to change something. I can change anything. You might say, don't do it, Steve. That's freaking crazy. Trust me, I'm a trained professional. Individual stack mechanical injection on an old school small block Chevrolet. If you want to see how you actually tune and set up individual mechanical injection, stay tuned. All right, even though we're having a lot of fun around here and I'm showing you a lot of stuff, I do want to mention we're thinking about all those people, poor people in North Carolina that have lost so much. My dad actually lives over around close to that Asheville area, but he wasn't really affected by anything. But just wanted to say, you know, they're going through a really hard time, so remember to keep them in your prayers and stuff. All right, so this is a old school small block Chevrolet, aluminum block, aluminum cylinder heads. I did not build this engine. Okay, this is Chuck Wells' engine. An older gentleman here in Michigan brought this thing to me quite a while ago, actually, to tune it. He says it's a brand new engine. Put this console on there, and we've never started, never done anything with it, so it's all new stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, no problem. You're going to need to finish the fuel system for me and get it all put on here. So what I'm going to do is, as I'm going through this, I'm going to tell you and start showing you stuff that you, this is old school stuff. There is not a single electronic on here. There is, if the only thing that you would put in this is a rev limiter chip. Look that up. Well, all us old guys know exactly what a limiter chip is, but you probably don't. That would be the extent of the electronics on this thing. So we are physically having to go through this, and I will explain the fuel system and how it works, and the valves and bleed offs and pill can jets and barrel valve and position, all this other stuff as I'm going through it. So the first thing that we're going to do is I primed up the oil pump, or I'm sorry, primed up the fuel pump because it's a mechanical fuel pump. So it is all mechanical injection. All right, I put a fuel pressure line on the input line in. So this is what is making for fuel pressure at the moment, because it bypasses by making certain positions in the barrel valve, mainly the barrel valve, certain positions. So as this barrel valve opens up, think of it similar to your faucet or whatever, but it actually kind of works in reverse, because as it opens up, it actually bypasses less fuel as it and sends more fuel to the injectors. When it's closed, it bypasses all the fuel and sends it back to the tank. So it actually does not make any fuel pressure at idle. Very minimal, and then it builds fuel pressure as it RPMs up and is open. So I'll explain a little bit more about that. But I've primed the pump, I've got fuel everywhere here. So I have the first thing to do is, if you look in here, and I think we'll take a look at this, might have to adjust this just a little bit, this is your barrel valve, which is right down here. Okay, let's get it from this side, Nate. So this is your barrel valve right here, okay? And this lever right here, so as the throttle opens up, it opens the barrel valve, redirecting fuel into a intermediate circuit. So it goes from the idle circuit to intermediate circuit, basically. Don't hold me to the specifics. I'm not a, there are old guys out there that know this stuff like instantaneous, like, you're gonna do this, that. I am not that guy. I am the happy in-between guy that understands EFI, mechanical injection, carburetors, the whole gamut. but not to, especially mechanical injection. I know a ton more about EFI, but don't know every single thing. So I'm explaining it to you in the basics so you can understand how the system basically works. So what we got to do is we need to have enough barrel valve position that it will have enough fuel pressure to actually idle on. So this thing will have just a couple pounds of fuel pressure at idle, which is actually how much. So that's actually how it's basically how much pressure is at the nozzle. So any given time, whatever pressure we're reading right there on that side of the inlet line is how much pressure is at the nozzle at that moment. So obviously, like EFI, the injector, our injector always has the same pressure right here. If always one base pressure, let's say 43 pounds or 90 pounds on an injector like this, and it opens and closes to regulate pressure or fuel flow. The nozzle is always open. It is always flowing fuel, period. Okay? If that pump is spinning, those nozzles are spraying fuel into it. So that's why you can't have an electric pump on it. It would just sit there and literally fill the engine up with fuel. Okay? So this has static pressure, or one constant pressure, boost reference if you have something like that. This has infinite variable rates of pressure. So the first thing we got to do is I primed it up. I got this roughly set up to where it was at, and then we got to, I have all the throttle bodies roughly set. I need to actually do a little bit of research on it to see exactly what, there's a specific method I think that you can use, a feeler gauge or paper or something like that. I mean, this says it's like a 2-inch throttle body, 2-inch throttle blade per runner. So it takes such a minimum amount of throttle opening to make the cylinder fire, but it still has to have a minimal amount of throttle opening to make the cylinder fire. So I'll start it up, or see if I can get it to start up. If it starts up, then I'll come in here and actually see if it is firing on both banks first, and then I'll still do just a little bit of playing, and maybe I'll research up what I got to set the throttle bodies to. But the long story short is fuel, air, spark. We got spark. I know I got fuel. If it don't fire, it don't have air. So let's go out and fire this up. All right, let's go in and check the temperature real quick. Just to do the simple test here. Oh, look at this. There we go. All right. Still nothing there. All right, so this side of the engine is hot. So it's all in this linkage setup. All right, so what I'm gonna do, you just saw that the pipes were cold on that side, which means I know it's got fuel, which means there ain't getting any air. And I actually thought Chuck had this all set up, but that's fine now. I went in there, eyeballed it, looked at it, said, yeah, that looks about right. But no, anyway. So what I'll do here is, I'm not sure what the setting is. I think the primary thing is you want it equal. That way all the cylinders are obviously firing. Now this is a drag race, I'm sorry, this is on methanol, okay? And drag race application. You might be able to, I guess you can drive it if you want to, but. And they do these manifolds and EFI, and then you would still end up having to set these throttle bodies, but it's really easy but complex because it is straight out mechanical, and so you actually, there is nothing you're going to type on the computer to change something. I can change anything, send, do any of that kind of stuff. Here, you're like, no, I need to adjust that piece, that linkage bar right there, or I need to adjust that stop right there, or that stop right there, or that throttle, or that linkage bar right there. So we are just going to work our way through this and figure that out. So this side wasn't firing. This side was. And it was, it was idling reasonably well. Might actually just have to take I think I'll have to take the trumpets off of all of them. And I'll just run a feeler gauge. I bet you somebody's gonna jump on there and tell me you could use paper or something. Because in general, paper is about how thick? Nate, camera guy, how thick is it? Pitiful.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pitiful. About 2 to 3 thousandths thick. That's how thick paper is. Reasonably about the same thickness as your hair.
I was gonna say 2 hairs.
No, my hair is usually about 2 thousandths, but I think might be different. All right, so, and really, actually, I really don't need freaking trumpets on it right now to get it all running and idling anyways. And I suppose actually you could, if I had the EGTs on it, I suppose I could actually do this where I literally could open up the throttle position and keep on taming everything down, sit here and read EGTs and blah, 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 such and such. That is a possibility. I think I'll just at least get this rough set right now. I know that this side is making temperature and running. I know that this side is not. This side looks like it is open. That's why I can't figure that out. It should be running away. Unless there's too much. Well, let me see if I got a small enough feeler gauge. No, throttle bodies are also tapered. So if you look down in here, this side's easier to see, Nate. This leading edge right here is actually tapered. So when it closes, it seals up. So it's not just a square edge. Otherwise, it would hit on the front edge that goes down and closes and leave this one open. And what the fudge? Oh, that thing's freaking wrong anyway. So this linkage bar is wrong because this won't even allow me to go to wide open throttle because it pulls on that linkage arm. So I have to adjust some stuff here. But I know that it's got at least enough fuel to idle here, and it's already as rich as it would go. So as I would turn this, as I'm lengthening that bar out, it is closing the valve. Now that is making it richer, 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 richer. It's jammed all the way up. You open throttle, it's over center. I'm not wide open throttle. So I need to change my linkage length because I'm going to need to put this this arm needs to be down farther. And it obviously it's buried in there, so I'm going to have to dig that all out. But anyways, let me get to this thing first before I keep on forgetting. Actually, I just took this nozzle off over here. Thought, you know, better double check, make sure there is fuel here. There was no fuel at the nozzle. Usually there'd be a little something here. There's nothing there, so I think I'm actually gonna prime this pump real quick again and see if I saw fuel coming out of this one. I made an assumption. What's the assumption mean, Nate?
It means you're wrong.
Yeah. Sorry, yes, I got the cruds and I'm just trying to get over it. Okay, so we should see some fuel coming out of this line. Oh yeah, look at that. God darn it. Okay, this one comes out of this one. Can you see both of them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now it came out.
It's like when nothing works and you tell your wife to come over and look at it.
Come here, look at
and it's fixed.
It's fixed. All right, so that came out. It didn't come out at first. It's definitely run long enough to prime all that up. It might not be at enough barrel valve position because of that right there. So let's take a spark plug out because maybe they're fouled out. I didn't even check the spark plug wiring, or wiring, because these had spark plugs and wiring all hooked up on it. Well, look at that. Chuck has these spark plugs indexed too. You know how I know that? Because that has an indexing washer on it. Mm. So Chuck has indexed these spark plugs too. What that means is, if it's got a dome piston in it, if this strap is in the wrong position and it's pointed down here, the piston comes up, goes dink, and hits it. When it's like this, the piston comes up, goes miss, and misses it. So that's what indexing is about, and you can index them to certain positions too. I think it's got to be this barrel valve position. So you still got to go back to, you're getting sidetracked here. Still got to set the throttle blades all the same. All right, I'm gonna go grab some lunch first. We're gonna come right back after lunch. Kyle. Hey, did you get my last factor?
No. I don't know what that is.
What's that?
What? That's from something else. That's got to be from parts.
That's the last one.
Just relax. Look. Shipment came today.
All right. Oh, you're off the hook. The only reason I'm doing this is because I have been eating these factor meals for almost a year now. Always keep them in the fridge. Come in. It's a super easy deal. I like it because it's fast. It's easy. Come back. It is literally this easy. And it's a good food. I really do like it. Like I said, I've been eating this for a year. I'm only going to promote and do stuff that I actually do. Pop, pop. Put it in. Bing! 2 minutes later. 2 minutes later, you're eating food. And it's a good lunch. And I do appreciate it. So, head to factor75.com or click the link below. But make sure you use the code Steve Morris 50 to get 50% off your first factor box and 20% off your next month of order. So, go use the code Steve Morris 50 at factor75.com. And then please use my promo code. Because the last time I did an ad, said one of my buddies came over, shopped in, and he goes, oh yeah, he says, I did the factor. It's pretty darn good food. I'm really surprised. I go, oh sweet, did you use my code? No, I didn't use your code. That does no good to me. It's a good deal. It's good food. I really enjoy it. And it's a good value. I mean, it is really convenient to just come in here, unless your 23-year-old son has taken your last factor. I don't even know what to say about that. So make sure you hide your food once you get it so he doesn't take it, and enjoy. Alrighty, back from lunch. Big black Hemi going in the big black jet ski. I think that's what we can call it. Big black jet ski. So we don't go here over there. That's a little more coming up on that later. I have a 1,000th or 2,000th feeler gauge. Never use that stuff anyways. You got one?
No. Feeler gauge?
Yeah. Super small.
Ooh, I don't know.
So I'm going to take the Snap-on Flyer, which is, how thick is it? How thick is it? Oh, it's a little thicker than I thought. 3,000ths.
Should we just get a regular sheet of paper and printer?
I don't know. But it should be, it's probably, might be thicker. But this would be, so if I, obviously if it's 3.3 and I double it up, that would make what, mate?
6.6.
There you go. So let's try that. There's some guy right now that's going, oh my gosh, this guy's stupid. This is so obviously easy. You have a flux capacitor rod that you shove in the hole, and that sets the gauges and does everything. I'm sure it does. It's definitely in this range of 2,000ths or so. This side was firing. Well, see, now this one is definitely good. That one's fine. That one's fine. Over here, maybe this actually has too much. Maybe it's got too much air. Oh yeah, it's got a boatload. All right. So maybe we have too much air here for the fuel. It's too lean and it won't fire. That's interesting. You wouldn't think it would do that, but it's possible. And that is, so this is now 6. It will not even remotely come close. These ones over here are easily touching it at 1 and wouldn't even put 2 in there. So see, I can just move the paper in and out. It's way loose. All right, so okay, so this is on the stopper. Okay, go back. Okay, that is, we're gonna say call that 3/1000. We'll tighten up my stopper here. So this set of linkages, since it's on one shaft, there's ways of manipulating the throttle blade, but they're all sound pretty good. You can actually tap them, I can hear it. They all sound basically the same. These ones, hear that? That is super loose, right? Is that? Make sure the throttle bot or one of the blades isn't loose or something. Well, they're tight. They're all got the correct taper in them. Okay, so this one is correct. So this one here, oh, look at that. What is, oh, hold on, there's a, no, that's not touching anything. Ah, here's a stopper here. All right. So, throttle stop lever here. Okay, let's get that one loose. Now, when this little crossbar, so this throttle opens up and it pushes that one open. But it also, if you look in there, see how I'm opening it, that side of the engine up or closing it. So, okay. Now let's get this. So we're tight, we're closed. So this throttle stop is not touching anything. This, oh, that one was touching. There we go. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I no freaking idea why there's so many throttle stops here. But when this one gets hung up on these stops, it starts opening up this one. So, which is no bueno, obviously. I should probably be doing this with the throttle stops. Let me double check this one, make sure I didn't F this up. I think it might have. It's pretty tight. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. Double check it one more time. Make sure. Now I got everybody's tight in the hole. Yep. All right. Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. You hear that go? I don't know if that comes in on camera, but that seems to be all same deals. Okay. And now I still need to move this barrel valve. Now the barrel valve, that little arm is actually on a spline shaft normally. So I want to keep the barrel valve in the same position, but I want to move the arm so I keep the barrel valve shaft the same exact spot. And this is there we go. So I'm going to lengthen this out quite a bit and then just put it back on. And then that should give me a more adjustment. And should make it so I can go wide open throttle here. Ta-da! Okay, so wide open throttle, and this thing hasn't cammed over, hasn't gone over center. Okay, so okay. We set the throttle blades. Put more position in this. We can even put a little more fuel in it. An interesting thing on methanol Methanol typically will run. The engine will be sitting there running. EGTs can be like 200-300 degrees, and literally have fuel running out of the pipe, and it'll still sit there and idle. So that's why I didn't think it was a matter of fuel on this side, because there's no fuel running out of the ground, and the throttle blades are too open. So, anyways, let's give that a whirl. Be very beneficial if I put the fuel pump back on. Did you see these? I had a guy, Marty Grant from Canada, send me these. Somehow, some way, I'm gonna figure out how to make our own Matchbox car, the wagon. It's gonna be cool. Thanks, Marty. That was neat. Okay. It's better now. Okay, so all the cylinders are hot. That's good. And you heard how fast I went. Wow, just rode right up. So obviously that's a lot closer. And so I need to get it to idle down some. And that gets to be the problem is you see how much throttle blade position we have in there, and it still wants to idle like that. So we'll have to go measure a piece of regular paper. But I think we're gonna have to tame it down, or gotta get it down just a little bit. And it's probably a little bit lean. I can also add fuel to it to slow it down, slow that idle speed down. I haven't even gone in there and checked timing yet. So I just need to get it to a good spot where everything's stationary. All right, so I mean, it's definitely got a little bit of pressure on this. We've changed this paper. It's still the same thickness as the Snap-on Flyer, but I can pull it up through there, so it's not pinched off. It's not pinched, doesn't appear to be pinched off on any of them, so I can definitely make it so it's, I guess we'll make it tight. Try that, because I can't find any. Ironically enough, the one that sounds weird is the one that's tight. Yeah, a little tighter, but it's not. That's where I want the rest of them to be. Now, I'm sure that there is a perfect way of doing this, and like somebody's got it all figured out. There might be even some kind of like a synchronizer or something for doing this. I mean, this makes the most amount of sense. You get it to be open, you know, the same amount. It's just such a fine amount. It's hard. I wonder if there's a, I don't know, there might be something else. If there is, I don't have it. And I think I make it work this way. Now, we're not trying to all of this is 100% so the thing just idles. Okay? It's a drag race engine. Starting up and idling is important. In the grand scheme of life, it's not the most important thing. So as soon as we can get through this, I'm going to close these throttle blades up just a finite amount less, and make it tight on the paper, but not too tight on the paper, because we're going to have to loosen all of them. I'm pretty sure they're all pretty darn close to the same. So we should be able to loosen all of our stops at minimal amount. So I can feel it's on the stop. And then, I mean, you're turning it like, well, those are a 1032 screws, so it's got, or 1024 screws, so it's per revolution. And turns per inch. She's got to do the math on it, how much 24 that is. Turns per inch. No, I'm just talking to myself, sorry. So we're tight. I'm going to just get this till I move it till it. Okay, that's loose. So I'm backing that off like 1/100th of a turn. You tighten up the screw, and it changes the adjustment. Or tighten up the jam nut, I mean. And that's definitely getting tighter right there. Okay. That is definitely tighter. All right, let me go just a skosh more. Okay, that's tight. All right, I'm gonna leave that. See if that is enough. You think about it, how much air? So if there was a 3/1000ths of thickness all the way around that blade, how much of an opening in that is all the way around the blade, and it makes it idle? How much air could possibly go through the thickness of that paper? Now I'm curious. So Nate's curious. He wants to know. Leave your comment. Somebody can figure that out. How much area? How much does that flow? 3/1000ths all the way around a 2-inch throttle blade. How many CFM will that flow? I'll just make sure this is making sure that this is neutral. There's slop in the system, so I'm just making sure that screw is neutral, or this link bar is neutral. Okay. All right. Let's try that out. Oh, they'll refer to this as when you turn these linkage bars. This is an interesting thing. When you turn these linkage bars, they refer to that as a flat. And the another interesting thing is when you're adjusting suspension and you're putting rear steer in it, or you're putting rear preload in it, you'll go a flat, which is one side of the hex. One flat, 2 flats, 3 flats, whatever. And same thing here. They'll do one, we'll adjust this by how many flats we give it. Okay, obviously this is a little bit smarter than I am right this particular second, so I'm gonna have to figure this out. As I've been thinking about this and trying to struggle my way through here, then I started thinking about, remember I said something about synchro. So I know there's some kind of like synchronizer or something like that. What I did is I got, everything's off the stops, no stops at all. So I'm backpedaling, I'm trying to figure this all out. Throttle blades are closed. They are closed. The linkage does not move. Neither linkages move at all. I put tension on this one, so when this one does move, it moves this one. So instead of putting it in a free position, I put it in a loaded position, but not open. And here, if you get up on top of here real high, Nate, you can stand on this thing. Or stand over here. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure that when I move this throttle screw anything, a 1/16th of a turn, that it moves both sets of throttle blades exactly the same. So all throttle blades move the exact same amount just based off this one screw, I think. So if I can, you can see here, minimal movement right there. So that is nothing, just that amount of movement is moving all of these throttle blades, and I can see them just start to move, and is moving these the same amount. I can just see them just start to crack open. So I'm going to try it this way now. So I got this one loaded. So when I move this screw, I can feel it move this linkage, see it move this linkage, and move this linkage, and move this linkage, all the same amount. Now the bugger thing is then when the engine starts up, it tries to shut the throttle blades, so it actually closes the throttle blades. So you have it set, and then it starts and it goes, this vacuum on the cylinder goes, and actually sucks the throttle blade closed. So you can see I'm just moving this one screw, And you can see it moves this linkage bar
Oh, yeah.
away from my finger, okay? The same amount. This one's moving the same amount. It's pushing this the same amount. It's moving throttle values the same amount. So let's give that a whirl. And the other problem probably gets to be, methanol is pretty forgiving, but I've also found, remember, it's running fuel through here, regardless if it's got air or not. Tends to flood the plugs out on one side, so I'll probably rev this up just so I can get clean out the plugs and try getting the cylinders to fire up again, and then bring it back down to idle. So far that's 3 gallons of gas getting it to idle. I'm gonna start checking some other stuff because I'm getting tired of trying to make this idle down lower, because it keeps on wanting to shut off cylinders as I get it to lower. So it means each individual blade is just like slightly off in the bore or something. Some things he might have to just do himself. He wants me to tune it, not make it idle.
Stacks going on?
Yeah, let's put the stacks on it. Check the timing or verify that. There's a little rubber O-ring down there. There we go. Okay, so now everything I've showed you so far is to get it to idle. And obviously I'm having a little bit of trouble getting it to idle down, but I have all the cylinders firing, everything's good there. Some cylinders are just slightly more open than others, which is causing me a little bit of grief. Guarantee you there's gonna be 55,000 comments of how to correctly do this when I buy such and such tool or something. But some things, it's a little, I can set a really low idle on this anyway, or a lower idle on this anyways, but you know, being in gear and then automatic, some things I am gonna let him mess around with here just a little bit. So we showed the barrel valve. Now that barrel valve opens up, is open just a little crack. It shows just part of the opening. So there's this barrel that's in there. It literally is a barrel. It has cutouts in it, and it's shaped so that it flows fuel or bypasses fuel one way or the other. So then there is a 40 psi intermediate valve that's also on this distribution block. So all 3 of these hoses go back to the tank, and all 3 of these hoses are bypass hoses. So your intermediate goes right here. So at part throttle, or I believe on the intermediate side of the barrel valve, so the thing doesn't try to overpressure and flood out the you know, going into the transition. So it doesn't try to flood it out. It has this little momentary 40 psi check valve in it that bypasses everything over 40 psi, because the pump will just pump basically hundreds of pounds of pressure, okay, whatever. So that goes your tip in. That pretty much I think is set. That, especially for this application, it really doesn't matter too much. Revs up, sounds like $1 million bucks. It sounds great. I still got to check the timing on it, see where it's at, see where Chuck's got it set at. So we'll check that out, and then you have your your main jet. Now your main jet, so all fuel goes in that distribution block, goes through that barrel valve, which is turning. And when it goes into wide open, then all fuel goes to the injectors and this main bypass. Now this main bypass right here has a pill in it. Okay? What you call a pill or a jet. That is the main jet. So what we do is you're controlling how much fuel the engine gets by how much fuel you return. Okay? Pressure. So the pressure is a for the moment, pressure is a linear line. It's at wide open throttle, it's past the intermediate circuit, it goes wide open. So then as engine RPM increases, fuel pressure would increase. Okay? Now, the main jet, what the main jet makes it do is basically, okay, we bypass fuel. So here's your fuel curve. Okay? When we put a bigger main jet making it return more fuel, the whole fuel curve basically goes boop, down like this, flows less fuel. If we put a smaller main jet in it, making it send more fuel to the engine, return less, it goes boop, goes up here. All right? So it always follows that curve, but it's always adding more and more and more fuel because the pump is spinning faster, which will make it flow more fuel. So you would do most all of your adjustment in that main pill, okay, in the main jet. Now I have a small one in here right now. I have a camera guy, what is that?
58.
58. So I have a 58 in there. And we have bigger and I have a couple smaller. But for here, this is pretty small hole, so it should put a lot of fuel at it. And so I'm going to do this. Now, after you have a base fuel curve in it, there we go. And that's a one-way check valve. The flow can only go this direction. All right. Now, after you have, well, you know what? I gotta think about that. If that's the right direction, because that will just force that down. So that's not the right way. This is on wrong. That is not correct. That is incorrect as incorrect can get. This thing, I believe, is upside down. Notice. Very cool Steve Morse engines and wrenches. These are on our merch page right now. They are, I had these made here in America, American made, with extra beef in all the areas. So when they fit really nice. I mean, it's not Chinese junk. These things are really good. You can go check those out. Have them in a 4-wrench set. But anyways, I made these because I got tired of stripping stuff out. You know, they just don't fit well. And then when you really reef on them, they don't have enough material up here to be strong enough. Super strong, anodized, they're really nice. Let me take that thing off real quick. Yes, I just started thinking about this. Fuel needs to go this direction through. This was not ever going to bypass any fuel because it was upside down. So Cody put it in upside down. He just didn't know. Cody. Okay. Now. Yes. There we go. Now the spring holds the jet in. Glad I saw this because it was not going to work. Okay. So the little plunger right there just keep fuel, you know, like it's got like a 2 or 3 psi spring to just keep fuel from going there wrongly. It blows through opens up that little spring, and then it's trying to flow all that fuel through the jet, the main jet. Alrighty then. Alright, so that's interesting. So that's exactly one of the things we need to know. Unfortunately, you don't have enough data log in here to figure all that out. Is that going into wide, you know, revs up, wamba, sounds like $1 million. Well, that's not everything of the whole system. it is not going into wide open throttle. So the way it stalls out on it, it definitely sounds, I would lean more towards it doesn't have enough fuel in it. So let's check that out. Let's make sure our bypass, the intermediate bypass is right, because it never even got the wide open throttle right in that intermediate area. Alrighty, got it figured out. Come on in here, I'll show you. All right, so what I figured out here is that I can't data log information. The data logger isn't recording until I start the sweep. So it's not recording as I'm just tipping in, okay? So I just had to watch the fuel pressure gauge. It's like, well, what the heck? The fuel pressure never goes up. It's like, not right. So I came in and I thought, okay, maybe it's the intermediate circuit, because it would come off idle a little bit, you know, just a little bit. I thought, nope, don't want to do that either. It's like, all right, well, fair enough. And so it still didn't make any fuel pressure after I flipped that intermediate valve around. And I go, you know what? The only thing that is here that keeps this thing from building fuel pressure is the last part of the system that I had not talked to you about, which is the high-speed bypass. Okay, so here's the main jet. Here's the high-speed bypass. And what this is intended to do is it's intended to cap it at a maximum pressure. Well, I thought it was preset. But since this screw is loose and it has nothing, it obviously is not preset. It was dumping all the fuel pressure. So I physically took the high-speed bypass out, boom, did all that. And it changed our idle, added more fuel to it. More fuel pressure, and had instantaneous fuel linear fuel pressure line. Okay, so that was cool. So now I will actually, and we don't need to do anything with high speed. I was going to talk to you about that later, because I figured that it was already set at high pressure. I should have just checked it. That is two assumptions today.
What happens when you assume?
Makes it A out of you and me. Mainly me. Anyways, you can run the very basic system is forget the secondary or the intermediate, forget the high speed lean out, because the high speed lean out is literally just for very top RPM, top speed to just like make it stay a little bit leaner up there. It's high speed lean out. High speed lean out. Leans it out when it's at high speed. But it was obviously not adjusted at all, so it was dumping everything at for 2 psi of pressure. But the very basic system just uses the one bypass, which is the main pill. So that's why I hadn't talked about a high-speed bypass yet. So we had just started working. Now this system is just working off the main jet, point blank. That's pretty good torque for this size engine already, especially being that good, safe timing. Typically an engine like this is going to want a little more timing than 30 degrees. So that's pretty good right there, right away off the bat. So I think we're in a nice, safe spot that we can go ahead and just rev this all the way up. It looks good. Our numbers are fine. We'll rev this up and probably just rev it up like 7,000 and come in, take the spark plugs out, take a look at them. But it's a totally different animal now. Stupidity made a assumption. I saw the wire tie on it. And I thought, that is, gal darn it, made the wrong assumption. And then, because I didn't put all the plumbing on this, I had Cody do it, so I didn't look through the instructions. I bet you somewhere in here it tells me that that bypass is not set yet. But it had that 40 psi secondary, which wasn't working anyways because the high speed was blowing everything by it. And blah, blah, blah. That's just setup instructions. No, god darn it. Oh well. So I'm actually doing exactly the way I wanted to do it anyways, which is just go ahead and do everything off the main jet. And then we can monitor fuel pressure there, see what the fuel pressure ends up being. And then at the top end of the pull, we can start adjusting our high-speed bypass to see if it kicks it up and gives it a little more over the top. All right. Now, let's take a look at our fuel pressure, see where we're at. That's pretty good horsepower. The torque is actually down from the first time we did it. It's a little cooler. We'll let it cool down a little bit. Sounds good up there. I think that it is probably got a bunch of fuel pressure up here. So let's see. Well, the biggest problem is it doesn't make any boost.
That'd fix everything.
That would fix everything. Guarantee it would go faster. The torque is pretty broad and curved, no problem. Our fuel pressure, like I said, the fuel pressure is this really nice straight, you know, is a big linear line. It just keeps on making more and more fuel pressure. I think we're gonna probably start leaning, or probably put this, I'm gonna try setting that high speed lean out at like 100 and seeing what that does up here on these numbers. Basically just lean it out. Now let's look at, because if we look at our fuel pressure, let me go over here, put fuel pressure up on the chart. 130 pounds of fuel pressure. We'll go back in there and I'm gonna figure out this high speed bypass here and see what kind of horsepower, if we can get this thing leaned up and making over 800 horsepower. So we'll put the high speed bypass line back in. Now since this is all temporary lines just for the dyno, so remember, don't get all panicky thinking it's all hillbillied up, because it is hillbillied up. No offense to my hillbilly customers.
You know who you are.
You know who you are.
Just a big list goes down screen. All the names. Start with Clark. Tom Bailey.
Clark, Tom Bailey. So basically, we should be able to put my regulator spring pressure on it. Oh yeah, that thing just blows right through. So it was just a constant fuel leak. Remember when I said, oh, that thing's loose? I didn't see that. I need to just attach this, and then I can put regulated air through here, and then I'll put, you know, like 100 pounds of pressure on the gauge here. Right. So what I'm going to do is, see right now, here, I'm going to turn this in just randomly, okay? Now, all you do is we just keep on putting air pressure here into it until, there you go. Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so right now that would be basically blowing off anything at about 23 pounds. So let's get this up in that 100-ish range. That's 60. Well, must be there's only 93, 94 pounds of pressure in the tank right now, so I'm gonna make it there. And then just a little bit past. There you go. Let's try that. See what that does.
Nice wrench.
It is a nice wrench. It has a really good feel. It is not your teeny weeny wrench, so like getting up in here and some of this stuff don't work. But most Dash 6 wrenches wouldn't, and it just isn't gonna get all swidged out.
I'd probably buy it if there was a chance to win something.
There was a chance to win something. For every $5 you purchase on the merch site, you get an entry and to win the Blue Blazer. That thing be bad. And you can go get those wrenches this week.
Here you go.
What are you doing, Cody?
Does everybody you want get a set too?
Yes.
Once they buy it.
Oh, we need. You gotta play. Come here, Cody.
I'll say.
Give me your sad face, like you're born to destitute. Play the Wings of Angels song. Please help Cody get a set of wrenches for his own. so it got a little bit better. So this is the blue line is the old fuel pressure. Keep on climbing. This is with a high speed bypass, and it just starts right there, and it starts to get a little bit better, not a ton, and then it falls off a cliff right up here for some reason, because I'm not pulling back on the throttle right there. You can see it pretty well just maintains that pressure, just kind of stays flat. That's what a high-speed bypass would do. So before I move anything more there, it has picked up just a tick up here and out here. I'm thinking let's go take a look at a spark plug real quick, and then we'll I'm thinking it should be entirely too rich all over the place. So let's see. Oh, that bar's rich. So no heat in it yet whatsoever. And I know I'm a little short on timing too, but I think I want to work on the fuel a little bit more. Boy, the timing's out there. Now I'm gonna put. I know this kind of engine takes timing like crazy, so I think I'm gonna put. We're gonna go gangbusters. 4 degrees. 1 swipe. You might say, "Don't do it, Steve. That's freaking crazy." Trust me, I'm a trained professional. I can do that. I told Cody to hook up the crank trigger, not the distributor. He hooked up the distributor, not the crank trigger. Oh.
Got it messed up, man.
Dun, dun, dun. I don't know how this even flaming worked. Cody literally wrapped the crank trigger pickup wires around the coil wire, and it still worked fine. I have no idea how that even worked. That's freaking crazy. That is freaking crazy.
Cody knows something.
Cody's got some secret squirrel bullcrap thing going on. Trained professional.
Okay.
So let's take a look at this thing, and I can keep on leaning on this thing and get her better and better. Oh, that's a weird little humpity deal. Good there, flat there, and then picked up a bunch. I would just expect it to be, linear, like right around through there, and not have this flat end area. I still think it's rich. I know that the timing is pretty good, so I think we will go in and we're gonna make a pill change. So we're gonna make 1 pill change on this and see where that ends up bringing it up to. And then I think I'm just gonna be calling Chuck and tell him to come over tomorrow, and we'll finish this thing with him here. And because it picked up in torque, it picked up everywhere except this weird little flat area. Now let's just do a jet change. Now when we do this jet change, if you remember, I told you that you have a fuel curve like this, or we have a fuel curve now like this. Okay, when we do this jet change, what we should see is the whole thing, everything just go down, not up here, not down there. It's gonna duplicate everything in a lower level. Now you like to see how fast this is. I think we said it had a 52 in it, didn't I?
58.
58 in it. So we want to lean it up, which means we're going to put a bigger bypass in it. Bypass more fuel. And it goes in a relatively decent array. As far as, I think it's a fairly big improvement. 58. So I'm gonna go 66. I want to put a 66 in it. I have honestly no freaking clue what. I could do all the math and figure it all out, but I figure it's going to be easier just change it and test it. So now you get to see when this thing's in the right way. Now, oh, you know what? That is a little inconvenient because now it's down on the bottom side of it. It's brass, so you can't pick that up. If I had this, normally you wouldn't have this mounted like this. It would just be like loose in a line. It should be right over there, but Cody, again, oh my gosh, Cody, you just bang. That's it. So if this was just loose, it would just fall out in your hand and be done. Bada bing, bada boom. Like so. Before we think it's a total turd, let's just overlay it and see if maybe that previous number, if we smooth out my graph something. Oh, we did smooth out my graph, but so I mean it's a I like the graph better. Probably a little bad spiky numbers. It just didn't make sense right there. If you were looking at this graph, you go, oh, that's pretty nice looking graph. I'm letting off the throttle up here, so it's going down. I guess I mean, that's a pretty hard fall off right there. But this all, I mean, that would be a pretty reasonably nice looking graph. Interesting to note. So the yellow line is the previous one. This is after we did the pill change. I was a little bit wrong. It should have. Oh no, that might make sense. So since we lowered the pressure all together until it made, here we get there, until it made 100. That 100 psi of pressure, it wouldn't start typing off. So since it made 100 psi of pressure back here, and so it definitely didn't get any better as far as lean. So it wasn't any better there. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put that 58 pill back in there, and I'm going to add 2 degrees of timing to it and see what it comes up to there. So, and I just looked at plugs again. Plugs look a little bit leaner now. Has color around the ring, so it probably changed it. I guess I'm not exactly sure if it. I mean, the hole size is so 10% of 58, 5, 6, 6. He's 6. So it'd be 10%. It's 10% different number, but it might be more than that in actual flow size, because that's a size hole, which is just a diameter number, not an actual area number. So it might be more than 10%. Long story short, I'm gonna put the jet back in it and just add just a little bit of timing, and I think it's gonna be in a pretty sweet spot. That picked up in torque a lot. Holy cow. This has got something weird going on there. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. This part of the graph looks awesome. That I'm happy with. So we should see, yep, our blue line now is current, and it did the exact same thing. Now it, picked up the meat through there. A little bit of timing and then flat out here. That looks pretty good. Super happy with everything. Except this one little divot. I'm not sure what that is from. Well, we're gonna close this out right now because this is it's really good right here. It's exactly what he was hoping it was gonna make. We could just keep on playing with it It's idling, revs up, does everything it's supposed to do right now. That torque number was probably just not quite right there. That little whoop, and then it just kind of settled down, and then it made a really nice, best looking power curve from 8200. And I was definitely wide open throttle to 8200, so I did not pull back on throttle until late. So it does fall off right up there. Still, it could be a little bit of the fuel. Could be. There we go. Now you can see. Bang! All right. Could be fuel up here, you know. It's possible. Still making 109 pounds of fuel pressure up there versus right here. Yeah, 105. Could maybe get a little bit out there, but honestly, right in this whole area, it's like we're hunting around for 10, 20 horsepower, blah, blah, blah. I know that people like get just freaking crazy over 10 horsepower. I mean, we can, but I think at this here, it's how it goes down track. Is it faster or not? So I'm going to close this thing out, wait for Chuck to get here tomorrow. I think we'll do just a little bit with Chuck here and then be done.